I wasn't supposed to be fighting for my newborn's life just minutes after giving birth. But that's exactly where I found myself, half conscious, covered in sweat, still shaking from labor, when HOA Karen barged into my delivery room like she owned the hospital. I remember the sound first, not my baby's cry, not the beeping monitors, but heels, sharp, angry heels, clacking on the hospital floor like a countdown. Before I could understand anything, she marched straight toward my newborn's crib, snatched the blanket edge, and hissed. This baby violated HOA birth regulations by arriving during quiet hours. For a second, my brain froze. Then she grabbed my newborn, my fresh, minutes-old baby. I screamed so hard my stitches burned. Nurses lunged forward, but she was already backing toward the door with my baby in her arms, ranting about community rules and discipline. What she didn't know, what she could never have imagined, was that the tremor my voice made, the panic in my scream, the fear in my blood, it triggered a signal, a silent alert, a reflex stronger than muscle memory. Because my husband isn't just any husband. He's a Navy SEAL, and the moment he heard my scream from the hallway, the moment he realized someone had touched his child, he covered the entire hospital corridor in 8 seconds. 8 seconds. Karen had no idea the storm she just awakened, and trust me, nobody walks away the same after waking a Navy SEAL. Before the story begins, I want to talk to you, the one watching this right now. Please take 2 seconds and comment your city name below. I always love seeing how far our community spreads across the USA. And Agar Apineho. Before we begin, please subscribe to the channel. Every story I share is real, raw, emotional, and filled with the kind of twists that life throws at the most unexpected moments. Your one click helps me continue these stories, and trust me, today's story is one you will never forget. Now, let's go back to the moment that changed everything for me. Giving birth is supposed to be the safest, most protected moment of a mother's life. You're surrounded by doctors, nurses, and the people you trust the most. You expect peace. You expect love. But what we faced, was chaos, was shock, was a nightmare I'm still trying to heal from. Because our HOA had one resident who believed she owned everyone, and I mean everyone. She controlled lawns, parking, holiday lights, noise levels, even the color of welcome mats. A control freak, a bully, a tyrant. But no one ever thought she would take it this far. Into a hospital, into a delivery room, into the most vulnerable moment of a mother's life. This isn't just a story about a newborn being grabbed. It's a story about fear, about strength, about a Navy SEAL rushing toward danger, and about a mother who fought harder than she ever had in her entire life. Let's begin. The moment my daughter entered the world, everything felt soft, blurry, and unreal, the way a sunrise looks through fog. I remember the warm weight of her resting against my chest, the tiny twitch in her fingers, the way her first cry sounded like a fragile heartbeat echoing in the room. After 9 months of fear, hope, impatience, hormones, cravings, sleepless nights, and quiet prayers, she was finally here. The nurses smiled. The doctor congratulated me. My husband, my rock, my anchor, my Navy SEAL, squeezed my hand before stepping out for just a moment to call our families. Everything felt peaceful. Everything felt safe. But peace never lasts long when a monster is lurking behind a door. I had just closed my eyes for a breath when a sharp, angry voice sliced through the silence. "Excuse me. This room is not up to community standards." My eyes shot open. At first, I thought maybe a nurse got the wrong room, or some medical staff wandered in. But when I turned my head, slow and exhausted, and saw her, my heart plummeted to the floor. HOA Karen. Short blonde hair curled stiffly like she ironed it every hour. A floral blouse with a name badge that said Neighborhood Compliance Officer, even though she wasn't employed anywhere. And in her hand, her infamous clipboard. The same clipboard she used to terrorize our entire neighborhood. And now she was in my delivery room. My delivery room. "What are you doing here?" I whispered, my throat dry. She didn't answer me. She didn't even look at me. Her eyes were on the crib, on my minutes-old newborn, wrapped in a soft yellow blanket with tiny white stars. I need to check that this child is being registered under the correct HOA birthing schedule, she said, flipping a page. It states clearly that any resident giving birth must do so within permitted quiet hours. Your delivery appears to violate that. I blinked. I honestly thought I was hallucinating from the pain meds. You can't be in here. I croaked, reaching for the call button. Oh, don't bother, she snapped. Your husband allowed me in. That was a lie. A big one. My husband would rather choke on his own dog tags than let this woman anywhere near me, especially right now. But she continued marching around the room like she owned it. She tugged on the privacy curtain, frowned at the color of the blanket I was covered with, and even inspected the flowers my husband left on the bedside table. These aren't HOA-approved colors, she muttered. My body trembled. Anger burned hotter than the postpartum shakes. Karen, get out. Please, I said, trying to sit up despite the pain ripping through my abdomen, but she ignored me. Instead, she walked straight to my baby. A nurse stepped forward immediately. Ma'am, please stay back, the nurse said firmly. Karen lifted her chin. I have full authority over this child. My heart nearly stopped. No, you don't. I screamed, my stitches burning. She didn't care. She leaned over the crib and poked at the blanket, inspecting the tiny embroidered stars like she was checking for contraband. This blanket doesn't match the HOA-approved color palette, she muttered. Yellow is only allowed in pastel tones. The nurse tried again. Ma'am, step away from the crib. But Karen took another step forward. Closer, closer. And then, without hesitation, without fear, without any right, she slipped her hands under the newborn blanket and lifted my baby. I almost ripped out my four. No, put her down. My voice cracked into a scream, so raw that it echoed off every wall. My baby whimpered softly in her arms, her tiny face scrunching up, confused and scared by the sudden cold. The nurse lunged. Stop, give her back. But Karen backed away, clutching my child like she had every right to take her. This baby has to be properly inspected and disciplined, she barked. I heard her crying. That violates noise policy. I felt the world tilt. Discipline? For a newborn? A child minutes old? I'm calling security, the nurse yelled. Karen stepped toward the door. No. I gasped, my heart pounding so fast I felt dizzy. Give me my baby. Please. Karen's eyes were cold. This is exactly why mothers need HOA supervision. You clearly have no idea how to manage noise control. I don't remember thinking. I just remember reacting. I screamed. Loud. A scream filled with panic, pain, and pure instinct. A scream that wasn't just a sound, it was a signal. Because my husband told me once, half joking, half serious. If anything ever happens, if you're ever in danger, your scream will bring me before anyone else can. And in that moment, that terrifying, unreal moment, my scream traveled through the hallway like a flare shot into the night sky. Karen didn't know she just set off a seal. But I did. A thundering, unmistakable crash came from the hallway. Fast footsteps. A nurse shouting, Sir, you can't run in here. Then, my husband burst through the door like a storm breaking open the sky. 8 seconds. That's how fast he covered the entire hallway. 8 seconds. His eyes locked instantly on Karen, on the woman clutching our newborn, backing away like the room belonged to her. The transformation in my husband was instant and terrifying. His jaw clenched. His shoulders squared. His entire stance shifted from loving father to trained warrior. Put my baby down. His voice was so low it vibrated through the room. Karen froze. Her brain finally realized the danger she was in. You can't threaten? You have 3 seconds, he said. She flinched. He took a step forward. 1. Karen's breath hitched. 2. Her hands began trembling. 3. She shoved the baby toward the nurse, so fast the nurse had to scramble to catch her. Karen stumbled backward, her clipboard falling to the floor with a loud crack. But it wasn't over. Not even close. Karen backed into the wall, eyes wide, breathing hard. I was just enforcing community guidelines. My husband didn't blink. You came near my wife, he growled. You touch my newborn. You don't walk away from that. The room fell silent. Even the machines seemed afraid to beep. My baby cried softly in the nurse's arms. And Karen? For the first time since we'd met her, she looked terrified. Truly, deeply terrified. And she should be, because she had no idea what was coming next. Karen pressed herself so tightly against the hospital wall that the floral print on her blouse looked like it might fuse into the paint. My husband didn't move at first. He stood perfectly still, shoulders broad, hands at his sides, eyes locked on her like a hawk assessing a threat. Most people only know Navy SEALs from movies or rumors. They don't understand the truth. A SEAL can stay completely calm while standing on the edge of absolute violence. The danger isn't in the shouting or the muscles or the dramatic lines. It's in the stillness, the control, the precision. And right now, my husband was still, terrifyingly still. The nurse handed my baby back to me, my arms shaking as I clutched her against my chest. I could feel her tiny heartbeat on my skin. My breath hitched as tears pooled to my eyes. Relief and terror mixed inside my chest like fire and ice. Karen swallowed. I was simply carrying out my responsibilities as the community compliance officer. My husband finally stepped forward. One step. Karen flinched so violently she nearly slipped on the clipboard she dropped. He didn't yell. He didn't rush. He didn't threaten. He just looked at her. That was enough. Your responsibilities? He said slowly, the words dropping like cold stones. Your responsibilities include entering a hospital without permission, violating federal patient privacy laws, and touching my newborn child. Karen straightened herself slightly, as if trying to find the last scrap of her delusional authority. Well, the HOA contract states, HOA, rules don't apply in a hospital. The nurse snapped from behind him. They don't even apply in half the places you try to enforce them. Karen ignored her. Her eyes were locked on my husband, wide, trembling, desperate. She raised her chin an inch. Noise complaints are noise complaints. I heard the baby crying and... That's what babies do, my husband said quietly. That's what MY baby does. And if you think you had any right to touch her, you're mistaken. Karen forced a shaky breath. I didn't harm her. I was correcting behavior. Behavior? His eyebrows lowered. She's 7 minutes old. Karen's jaw twitched. The doctor finally entered the room, startled. What on earth is going on here? Karen tried to regain her composure. Doctor, I am the community compliance officer of their neighborhood. I was ensuring the child was being raised in accordance with HOA standards. The doctor blinked at her, then blinked again. Ma'am, are you insane? Karen gasped. How dare? No, the doctor said sharply. How dare you walk into a sterile delivery room, interfere with a newborn, and terrorize a recovering mother? You could have exposed her to infection. You could have dropped the baby. You are out of line, and hospital security will be here any second. But Karen wasn't listening anymore. She was staring at my husband, or more accurately, at the badge clipped to his bag. The symbol wasn't typical. It wasn't something you saw every day. It wasn't even fully visible. But she caught enough letters to piece it together. SEAL Team. Her face drained of color. I didn't know your husband was military, she stuttered. You shouldn't need to, he replied. Decency doesn't depend on who someone is married to. Karen pressed her hand to her chest dramatically. Well, perhaps if she had followed the rules. My husband took another step forward, slow and quiet. Karen immediately stepped sideways, directly into a metal tray, which clattered loudly as instruments fell. Her panic spiraled. I didn't mean I wasn't trying. I thought, the HOA, I was only... He tilted his head. You were only what? Trying to kidnap my newborn under the excuse of noise control? Karen's lips quivered. I wasn't kidnapping. I was escorting the infant for compliance review. That's kidnapping, the nurse muttered. That's kidnapping, the doctor agreed. That's kidnapping, my husband said, voice dropping even deeper. And you walked into a room with a mother who just gave birth. You touched a woman bleeding and exhausted. You traumatized her. You scared her. And then you touched my child. Every word was steady, measured, like he was listing charges before judgment. Karen shook her head, rapidly, curls bouncing. I didn't know it was that serious. I thought. You thought you were above everyone, he said, and that ends right now. The room went quiet. Even Karen stopped breathing for a second. My baby whimpered against my chest. My husband turned slightly toward me, his expression softening for a moment. His eyes scanned me quickly, checking my stitches, my breathing, the color of my face. It was instinctive, protective, and deeply emotional. You okay? He whispered. I nodded, tears slipping down. She grabbed our baby. His jaw tightened. I know. I'm here. Then he turned back to Karen. Security will be escorting you out, he said simply, and after that I'll be filing charges. Karen jerked upright. Charges? You can't file charges. I'm on the HOA board. My husband didn't laugh, but the doctor did, and the nurse did. Even another nurse passing by poked her head in and choked on a giggle. The doctor crossed his arms. This isn't a neighborhood potluck dispute, lady. You broke hospital protocol, committed child endangerment, trespassed, and interfered with a medical patient. Karen shook her head frantically. No. We can handle this privately. I can amend the noise complaint. I can overlook the birth hour violation. Please don't involve the police. You should have thought of that before you walked in here, my husband said. Karen took another step back, right into the corner of the room. She looked trapped, like a wild animal realizing the cage door just locked behind it. Suddenly she blurted out, I only came because someone told me they heard crying down the hall. And HOA rules. You're not in the HOA building, the doctor snapped. You're in a hospital. Karen's face twisted. I didn't mean harm. You almost dropped the baby, the nurse shouted. Before anyone could respond further, a pair of uniformed hospital security officers arrived at the door. They took one look at Karen, disheveled, panicked, cornered, and exchanged a knowing glance. Ma'am, one of them said, you need to come with us. Karen's breath grew ragged. No, please wait, They approached her. She backed up until she hit the wall. But I didn't do anything serious, she shrieked. It was just a baby. The entire room went silent. My husband's eyes turned ice cold. Exactly, he said softly. It was a baby. A beat. A heartbeat. A moment that hung heavy in the air. Karen finally broke. She sagged into the security officer's arms, sobbing hysterically as they escorted her out of the room. But this was only the beginning. Because what happened next? What happened after Karen was taken away was a twist even I didn't see coming. The moment Karen was dragged out of the delivery room, the entire universe felt like it exhaled. The tension in the air loosened, just enough for me to breathe, but not enough for my heart to slow down. I held my newborn tighter, my fingers trembling around her tiny body. My husband placed a steadying hand on my shoulder, grounding me back into reality. The doctor checked me again, ensuring nothing tore during my panic. Nurses reattached monitors, adjusted pillows, refilled fluids. But even with all the medical activity happening around me, my eyes stayed fixed on the door Karen disappeared through moments earlier. How did she even get in? I whispered. The doctor sighed. Hospitals have many entrances. If someone is determined enough, they find a way. Determined. That word stuck to my skin like cold sweat. My husband remained silent, too silent. He had the posture of a man not done fighting. A man who sensed something was still wrong. And he was right. The first sign came 10 minutes later. A nurse rushed into the hallway, whispering frantically into her radio. Another slammed the door shut to the maternity wing. Security officers sprinted past my room, their faces tight, with urgency. A loudspeaker announcement buzzed overhead. Code pink. Infant security alert. The entire floor froze. Code pink meant one thing. Someone attempted to abduct a newborn. My blood ran cold. My baby whimpered in my arms, sensing my fear. My husband's jaw locked. Stay here. Hold her tight. Don't let anyone, take the baby unless they have 3 forms of ID. I nodded, trembling. Where are you going? He didn't answer with words. He answered with movement. In 2 strides, he was already out the door, scanning the corridor, then sprinting down the hall at a speed no normal human could reach. The SEAL in him was fully awake now, every cell focused, every muscle loaded. The nurse stepped back to my bedside. Don't worry, she whispered. This is precautionary. Your husband is just helping. But her nervous eyes said something else. Karen wasn't acting alone. Not today. Not ever. This was planned, and the real danger was still inside the hospital. For the first time since my daughter was born, I pulled the blanket down and stared into her tiny face. Her eyelids fluttered, her lips puckered softly. So peaceful, so innocent. My throat tightened. What did you get dragged into, baby girl? I whispered. I kissed her forehead and held her even closer. Minutes passed slowly, too slowly. Every time a shoe scuffed outside my door, my heartbeat spiked. Every whisper in the hallway felt like a threat. My mind replayed Karen's words over and over. I was just enforcing rules. I heard crying. Someone told me. Someone told her? Who? And why? She hadn't walked in here accidentally. She wasn't wandering around. Someone directed her. Someone who knew my due date. Someone who knew which room I'd be in. Someone who wanted my baby. Before I could piece it together, the door burst open again. But this time it wasn't a threat. It was my husband. But he wasn't alone. Behind him were 2 security officers and a trembling teenage volunteer wearing a pink hospital vest. His eyes were red. His hands shook. My husband guided him inside, gently but firmly. Tell her, my husband said, pointing toward me. The boy swallowed hard. I'm sorry. I didn't know who she was. She said she was a supervisor. She said she needed the room number of the woman who just delivered. She told me it was an emergency situation. My stomach dropped. Karen didn't find us. She was given the room number. The boy continued shakily. She said her job was to remove newborns who were crying too loudly. She said it was a medical policy. I believed her. Tears streamed down his face. I swear I never wanted to hurt anyone. I felt a wave of pity, but only for a second. The rest was exhaustion, fear, and fury. My husband placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. You did the right thing by coming clean. But next time, you verify everything. Understood. The boy nodded rapidly. Security escorted him out, but my husband stayed. He closed the door gently, then came to my bedside. His expression said everything I feared. This wasn't over. Karen wasn't working alone, he said quietly. I tightened my grip on our baby. Then who was helping her? He exhaled heavily. Someone in the HOA? Of course. Of course that snake pit had more than one venomous creature inside. Who? I whispered. I don't know yet. But someone knew your due date. Someone knew the hospital. And someone told her exactly when you were in labor. I slid down my spine. He sat beside me, brushing my hair away from my forehead. Remember when she said, someone told me the baby was crying? She wouldn't have heard anything from the hallway. This wing is soundproof. So she was tipped off. Yes. A knock rattled the door. My husband stood, instantly muscles tense, ready to defend. The doctor poked her head inside. It's safe. We found Karen near the parking garage. She tried to escape the officers and ran toward the loading docks. My heart pounded. She wasn't trying to escape. She was trying to finish something. The doctor went pale. We found something else too. She stepped aside. A security officer walked in, holding a folded piece of paper sealed inside a plastic evidence bag. My husband took it and slowly opened it. Inside was a printout of our family photo. A photo from inside our home, taken through a window. My husband's expression darkened like thunder. That wasn't from her, he said coldly. She's not smart enough to plan this. Someone else wanted our baby. Someone else was watching us. The doctor whispered, "Do you want us to move you to a secure maternity suite? We can call law enforcement." "We're not just moving," my husband said, slipping fully into SEAL mode. "We're relocating. And I want every exit monitored until then." "What about Karen?" I asked weakly. "She was just the hand," he said, "not the brain." A slow horror wrapped around my chest. Someone bigger, someone hidden, wanted my newborn. And they weren't finished. As night fell over the hospital, alarms quieted, lights dimmed, and the hallways emptied. But inside our room, silence wasn't peace. It was a warning. My husband stayed awake, sitting in the chair beside me, with one hand resting on his holster. His eyes scanned every shadow. I held our daughter, skin to skin, praying she couldn't feel how hard my heart was beating. Outside our locked door, a guard paced the hallway. Yet, even with all the security, something didn't feel safe. Something didn't feel done. Because Karen wasn't the real villain. She was just the beginning. And the real danger, the one who planned it, the one who wanted my baby, hadn't shown their face yet. But they would. Very soon. Night in a hospital is a strange kind of quiet, not peaceful, not comforting, but a hush that feels too heavy, too forced, like the building is holding its breath. The maternity wing lights dimmed automatically, leaving thin lines of gold spilling from the hallway beneath our door. My daughter slept on my chest, tiny breaths tickling my skin. My husband sat in the corner chair, leaning forward, elbows on his knees, eyes sharp and unblinking. Even in the soft shadows, he looked like a soldier on deployment, alert, ready, listening for danger the way normal people listen for music. A security guard patrolled outside our door. But my husband didn't rely on hope. He relied on instincts. Instincts honed through war, through night raids, through missions that civilians only heard whispers about. Hours passed in tense silence. Then something shifted. My husband straightened. His head turned toward the door. Not fast, slowly, deliberately. "What is it?" I whispered, clutching our baby tighter. He didn't answer. He stood, silent as a shadow, deadly as a storm. He moved toward the door, stopping just inches away, listening, truly listening. Then he whispered two words that froze my entire bloodstream. "Someone's out there." I didn't hear anything. Not footsteps, not whispers, not movement. But when a Navy SEAL says someone is out there, you don't question it. The baby stirred in my arms, sensing the tension. My voice cracked. "Is it security?" No, his jaw tightened. Security has heavier footsteps. This is slower. Controlled. Controlled. The word hit me like ice. "Karen?" I breathed. "No," he said. "This person knows how to move quietly." Before I could process what that meant, a soft scraping sound brushed against the door, so faint a normal person might mistake it for air. But not him. My husband signaled me to stay silent, then moved toward the wall beside the door, pressing his back to it. His stance shifted again, grounded, balanced, ready. A shadow slid across the bottom of the door. Someone was standing directly outside. Then, tap, tap, tap. 3 gentle knocks. Not frantic, not clumsy, purposeful. My heart hammered so hard I felt it in my fingers. The guard was supposed to be out there. Why wasn't he stopping this person? My husband spoke through clenched teeth. "Don't open it." I clutched the blanket around my baby. "Of course I won't." But a voice drifted through the door, soft, trembling, familiar. "Ma'am? It's me, the volunteer from earlier." His voice wavered. "I need to talk to you. Please let me in. It's urgent." My husband's eyes narrowed. The boy sounded scared, broken, desperate. But was it real? He stepped closer to the door. "If it's urgent, say it through the door." A long silence stretched. Then the voice cracked. "She's not working alone." We already knew that. My husband stayed silent, waiting. The voice continued shakily. I didn't tell you everything before. I was scared. She said she would ruin my life if I didn't help her. She said she had people watching me." "Who?" my husband demanded. I can't say out loud. Please, let me in. Please. My husband leaned toward the peephole. Then he stiffened. What do you see? I whispered. He didn't answer. His eyes stayed locked on the peephole as his hand slowly reached for his concealed holster. Baby, he said quietly, move away from the door. My stomach dropped. Why? What's wrong? Move. Now. I slid down the bed, curling around our daughter, my pulse thundering. My husband took a slow step back from the door, weapon hidden behind his leg. Then, the door handle turned. Not knocking, not begging, not requesting. Turning. Softly, quietly, deliberately. My breath hitched so sharply it hurt. My husband positioned himself, muscles coiled, but the door didn't open. Instead, the voice whispered again, but this time, it wasn't shaking. It wasn't weak. It wasn't scared. It was calm. Smooth. Too smooth. Ma'am, you really should let me in. For your baby's safety. My heart stopped. That wasn't the volunteer. That was someone pretending to be him. My husband's voice turned lethal. Step away from the door. Now. A low chuckle leaked through the crack. Cold. Cruel. Amused. You think one guard or one soldier can stop what's coming? My husband stepped closer, gun raised. But suddenly, a loud crash sounded from the hallway. A body hitting the floor. Damn it, my husband muttered. They took out the guard. My breathing sped up. They're coming for the baby. Not if I'm here, he said. The handle began turning again. Faster this time. My husband pressed a button on the wall. A shrill alarm blasted through the wing. Red lights flashed. Doors locked automatically. Security code engaged. But the door shook violently as someone slammed into it from the other side. My baby began to cry, her tiny wail piercing the chaos. I tried to soothe her, whispering, it's okay, Mommy's here, Daddy's here. But my own voice trembled so badly, I wasn't sure she believed me. The door shook again. This wasn't Karen. Karen had delusions. Karen had arrogance. Karen had a clipboard. But this was someone darker. Someone who didn't want to enforce fake rules. Someone who wanted my child. Stay with her. My husband ordered, stepping into position. The door rattled again, harder, louder, closer to breaking. Who are you? My husband demanded. The voice behind the door smiled through words. You could hear it, feel it. Someone who always gets what they want. I shivered. This wasn't about noise complaints. This wasn't about HOA rules. This was personal, targeted, planned. The door hinge groaned, cracking. My husband aimed, ready to fire if it gave way. Come on then, he growled. Open it. Silence fell. Then footsteps retreated, slow, fading into the hall. My husband waited, listened. Nothing. He lowered his weapon only a fraction. That wasn't a retreat. That was reconnaissance. What does that mean? I asked, tears slipping down my cheeks. It means, he said grimly, they wanted to see how far they could get. And next time they won't knock. My heart thundered. My daughter cried softly. And somewhere in the hospital's shadowy halls, the real enemy walked away, planning their next move. But the worst part? My husband finally turned to me, face pale, jaw clenched. I know that voice, he whispered. My blood froze. What do you mean? He swallowed hard, something a SEAL almost never does. I've heard that voice before, he said quietly, on deployment, in a hostage operation. And the person behind it, his eyes went dark. They disappeared years ago. He looked me straight in the eyes. They're supposed to be dead. For a long moment, the room felt colder than the hospital air conditioning. My husband, the man who faced war zones, insurgents, ambushes, and missions civilians would never hear about, stood frozen. His chest rose slowly, deliberately, as if each breath required force. I clutched our newborn tighter, the warmth of her tiny body grounding me even as terror threaded itself through my veins. What do you mean, supposed to be dead? I whispered. My husband didn't look at me at first. He was staring at the door, like he expected the shadow behind it to materialize again at any second. Finally, he turned toward me. The voice belongs to a man named Avery Scott. There was weight behind the name. a heaviness that wrapped itself around the moment like a chain. I frowned. Who is he? My husband's jaw tensed. A ghost. Someone from my SEAL days. Someone dangerous. Intelligent. Manipulative. He wasn't just a threat, he was the kind of man who studied human fear like a science. I swallowed. What happened to him? He exhaled slowly, a heavy, painful exhale that carried years' worth of memories. 3 years ago, we were sent to extract a hostage group from an underground facility connected to a rogue network. Avery was one of the captives. He paused, but he wasn't exactly a hostage. He was complicit, a strategist for them, the inside man. The hairs on my neck rose. We found out too late, my husband continued. He sabotaged the extraction, tried to take down my entire team. He almost succeeded. My voice struggled to form words. Did you capture him? We thought we neutralized him, he said quietly. A blast collapsed the building. We searched for remains for days. There was nothing. Command listed him as Kia. Killed in action, I whispered. He nodded. But someone like Avery doesn't die easily. He survives. He adapts. He waits. And now he's here? I choked. My husband's eyes darkened. Not just here. He's after something. Something important. My mind raced. But why our baby? Why us? He walked to the window and stared out into the night. The city lights glowed faintly in the distance, but inside the room, everything felt dark. That's what I'm trying to understand, he said. Avery doesn't act without motive. He doesn't do anything unless it benefits his agenda. He turned back to me. And if he's alive, if he orchestrated this whole thing, then Karen was just a pawn, a disposable distraction. My heart twisted. Do you think he wants to hurt her? Our daughter? His expression shifted. Not fear, not panic, but a rage simmering beneath the surface. No, he said. Not hurt. Avery doesn't waste targets. He uses them. A shiver ran down my spine. What does that mean? Leverage, he said. A SEAL's child is leverage. A way to manipulate, control, or break someone. Avery knows how to break people. The room felt smaller. The air heavier. I looked down at my newborn, innocent, pink-cheeked, unaware of the storm swirling around her. I whispered, why now? Why on the day she was born? That's what scares me. He ran a hand through his hair. Avery always plays long games. If he knew our due date, he's been watching for months. The realization hit me like a punch. Months. Watching. Waiting. The photo security found, the one taken through our window, suddenly felt 1,000 times more sinister. How do we protect her? I whispered, voice cracking. He knelt beside the bed, gently placing a hand on my leg. I won't let anything happen to her. Or to you. But we need to get out of this hospital. I blinked. Now, with code pink activated. Yes, he said. Avery thrives in chaos. While the hospital locks down, he'll look for back routes, service elevators, stairwells, maintenance corridors. This building wasn't designed to stop someone like him. My heart dropped. You think he'll try again tonight? I think he already is, my husband said grimly. As if fate wanted to prove him right, a sudden flicker ran through the lights. A momentary blackout. Just a blink. But it was enough. My husband shot to his feet. He's testing the power grid. I clutched our baby closer, my heartbeat exploding in my ears. What do we do? He grabbed his duffel bag, the one he brought to the delivery, and opened a hidden compartment. Inside were things that didn't belong in a hospital. Tactical gear, folded black gloves, a compact communication device, a flashlight, and something small, metallic, and deadly. He strapped the gear to his leg. You pack this. I whispered, shocked. He didn't look up. I always pack. I told you I don't gamble with your safety. A nurse suddenly banged on the door. My husband raised his weapon instantly, but the voice was familiar. It's me, she whispered urgently. Open the door. He checked through the peephole. She was alone, pale, frightened, clutching a radio. He cracked the door open only an inch. What happened? Her voice shook. The power grid wasn't a glitch. Someone is tampering with the emergency system. Cameras on this floor keep looping. Security can't see anything. A cold dread crawled up my spine. He's inside, my husband muttered. The nurse continued, we're evacuating the maternity wing. We're moving mothers and newborns to the intensive care lockdown area. It's safer there. My husband shook his head. No, that's exactly where he wants us all grouped together. The nurse looked terrified. Then what do we do? My husband took a steady breath. We leave, now, through an exit Avery doesn't know. The nurse blinked. Which exit? My exit, he said. I looked at him. You're what? He pressed a button on his phone, opening a map of the building. There's an old emergency maintenance tunnel under the maternity unit. It was sealed off years ago, but not permanently. I checked it when we got here. I stared at him. You checked maintenance tunnels while I was in labor? He shrugged. Habit. Before I could react, the lights flickered again. Longer this time. Darker. Colder. My husband's voice hardened like steel. He's cutting power section by section. We have minutes, maybe less, before he reaches us. The nurse looked panicked. Should I get the other guards? No, my husband said. This isn't their fight. He turned to me. It's mine. I swallowed a sob. Are we really doing this? Running through tunnels with a newborn? He stepped closer, cupping my face gently. We're not running. He kissed my forehead. We're surviving. Then he lifted my daughter from my arms with a gentleness that broke me. He secured her against his chest using a sling from his duffel bag, covering her in a soft, muted blanket to keep her warm and hidden. She made a small sound, a tiny coo, unaware of the danger around her. He whispered to her, Daddy's got you. Then he looked at me. Stay close. Don't let go of my arm. Whatever you hear, don't stop. The lights flickered again, and this time they didn't come back on. The hallway outside went pitch black. My husband switched on his small tactical flashlight. A cold burst of air slid under the door. Then footsteps. Slow. Hunting. Searching. My husband's voice turned into a blade. He's here. The hallway outside our door was pitch black, not dim, not low light, but the kind of darkness that eats sound and swallows distance. My heartbeat pounded so hard I could feel it in my fingertips. My husband's flashlight cut a thin beam of white through the black, but even that felt fragile in the suffocating silence. Footsteps moved somewhere in the darkness. Soft, measured, hunting. My husband positioned himself between me and the door, one hand gripping his weapon, the other pressed against my hip, so he always knew I was behind him. The security guard who was supposed to protect our door lay unconscious further down the hall. We could see one shoe sticking out in the tiny sliver of light. My breath hitched. He's close, my husband whispered. How close? I breathed. He didn't answer. He didn't need to. The footsteps stopped right outside our door. And then, tap, a single touch against the wood. Slow, careful, deliberate. My husband took a silent step backward, ushering me toward the room's opposite exit, a maintenance door behind the supply cabinet. He had spotted it on day one. Of course he had. He whispered, Move. I followed him, heart trembling, baby secured in the sling against his chest. He pushed the cabinet just enough to reveal the metal door behind it. A tiny red, authorized personnel, only sticker sat crooked on the rusted surface. He tapped a code. Yes, he had memorized it earlier, and the lock clicked open. He motioned me inside. The moment I crossed the threshold into the narrow maintenance corridor, a cold wave of musty air hit me. The corridor smelled like dust, metal, and forgotten years. It was narrow enough that my shoulders brushed both walls. Pipes ran along the ceiling above us, dripping condensation. My husband slipped inside behind me and closed the door quietly, leaving the black hallway and the footsteps on the other side. We were now inside the old tunnel system beneath the maternity wing. Keep your hand on me, he whispered, guiding me with his free palm. We moved deeper. One step, another, another. The baby's faint breaths were the only soft sound in the dark. Where does this lead? I whispered. To a secured maintenance exit near the back of the hospital, he said. We'll be out before he can track us. But there was something in his voice I wasn't used to hearing. Uncertainty. He wasn't unsure about the path, he was unsure about Avery, because Avery wasn't predictable. He was strategic, and he was watching. Halfway through the tunnel, the air changed, colder, heavier, crawling across my skin like static. My husband paused. "Stop," he whispered. I froze. He raised the flashlight slightly, and that's when we saw it. A message written directly on the tunnel wall, with fresh black marker. 3 words, "I knew you'd run." My stomach dropped. "He's been down here," I whispered. "No," my husband said. "He's still down here." A metallic clang echoed from the darkness ahead, closer than before. Too close. My husband spun around, stepping in front of me again. Gun raised. He whispered, "Stay behind me, no matter what." The baby stirred, sensing the tension. My heart ached, wishing I could protect her from even the sound of fear. Footsteps echoed again, this time coming from the opposite direction. "He's trying to corner us," my husband muttered. "He thinks this tunnel is a trap." "Is it?" I whispered. He gave me a faint, grim smile. "For him, it can be." We continued forward, faster now, approaching a split in the tunnel. The left path slanted downward, darker, colder. The right path led toward a metal ladder, going up toward a service hatch. "We go up," my husband said, but just as he reached for the ladder, a voice drifted out from the darkness behind us. Smooth, mocking, too familiar. "Leaving so soon?" I felt my blood turn to ice. My husband spun around. A tall figure stepped into the dim glow of the flashlight, just enough to outline his shape, not his face. A dark had covered his head, but his stance was almost casual, hands clasped in front of him like he was greeting an old friend. "You've gotten slower," the stranger said lightly. "Or maybe I've gotten better." "Avery," my husband growled. The man chuckled softly. "Ah, so you do remember my voice?" "Why are you here?" my husband demanded. Avery tilted his head. "You know why. You were always the smartest on your team. You already know what I want." My husband stepped closer. "You're not touching my daughter." Avery laughed, a slow, chilling sound that echoed through the tunnel. "Touching? Oh, no. I don't want to touch her. I want to claim what's mine." My lungs seized. "Yours? She's not yours." Avery smirked in the shadows. "Not biologically, of course, but symbolically? Oh, absolutely. You see, your husband took something from me years ago, something I valued, something irreplaceable." My husband's jaw clenched. "You were a traitor, a murderer. I stopped you." "Yes," Avery hissed. "You stopped me. You destroyed my plans. You cost me everything." "And that justifies this," my husband shouted. Avery lifted a hand. Revenge rarely needs justification. I stepped forward instinctively despite my fear. "Why our baby? She has nothing to do with your past." Avery laughed again. "Oh, but she does. She is your legacy, your weakness, your leverage." "You're not getting near her," my husband snarled. Avery took a single step forward. "I already got close once." That sentence stabbed through my spine. My husband raised the weapon. One more step, and... "Oh, please," Avery scoffed. "You won't shoot while holding an infant. You're reckless, not stupid." My husband hesitated just for a moment. Avery smiled. "Exactly." He lunged. My husband shoved me behind the ladder and swung his arm up, shielding the baby as he kicked Avery back with a force I'd never seen before. The tunnel erupted into chaos, fists metal, echoing grunts, boots scraping concrete. I screamed, "Stop!" But they didn't hear me. Avery swung a metal rod from his sleeve. He had come prepared. My husband blocked it with his forearm, pain flashing across his face, yet he stayed grounded, deadly, unyielding. "Run," he barked. "I'm not leaving you." "Run." I grabbed the ladder, trembling so hard I almost slipped. I climbed 1 rung, 2, 3, then a deafening noise cracked through the tunnel. A metal strike, a grunt, something heavy hitting the floor. I froze, but then my husband's voice, raw, low, alive. "Go." I'm right behind you. I climbed faster, pushing open the service hatch into cold midnight air. A security alarm wailed in the distance. Red lights flashed across the loading bay. Seconds later, my husband climbed out behind me, breath heavy, baby still secured safely to his chest. Avery was nowhere in sight. He had vanished, like a ghost slipping back into the dark. My husband grabbed my hand. We're getting out of here. Now. As he pulled me toward the exit, I looked back at the open hatch, and I swear, I heard a whisper rise from the darkness below. I'll be back. If you felt the mother's fear, if you felt the father's courage, if you felt that baby deserved justice, then don't leave without doing one thing. Comment below which city you're watching from. It helps this channel reach more people just like you. And subscribe, because stories like this deserve to be heard, shared, and protected. Your engagement keeps these real, raw, emotional stories alive. Thank you for watching, thank you for feeling, and remember, family is worth fighting for. Every single time.